Hello and welcome to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. Today we're going to look at the Citroen XM. Welcome back, and if you're new to Quartzlight, we look at car brochures from around the world 3 times a week. So if that sounds like it would interest you, please consider subscribing. Anyway, back to today's episode. The Citroen XM first launched on the 23rd of May 1989, although the right-hand drive UK models didn't arrive till October. This Bertone designed car shared the floor pan with the Peugeot 605, and today's brochure is from 1990. So let's have a look at that now. So yeah, the first thing is it's a very reflective brochure, very glossy, and also the other thing about this, it's a very large brochure. If I just put a standard size brochure, I'll just pick this random Peugeot 205, you can see what a huge brochure this one is. It looks impressive, but you always kind of like get a few issues with the covers on these larger ones because they're harder to keep. But anyway, we get a first image of the XM, and what you'll notice throughout this brochure, all the pictures show a grey XM. It seems to be a common theme, particularly with Citroen around about the 90s, showing them in grey. I think there's also like a full range brochure you can see, and every model in the range is grey, so I kind of suppose a bit ahead of its time, because we're kind of like there still today with lots of grey cars. And the surprising thing is, if you go to the back cover, which we will do later on, very nice colour pictures, the colour chart at the back there, which is a particularly nice one actually with this brochure. The colour range is actually really nice, but I was thinking before, what colours of XM do I remember? Most of them were like blacks and greys, the odd white, but when you look at the colour chart at the end, as we will do, there were 4 nicer colours to pick. But anyway, let's look within the brochure and see what we can see. And when we say it's a very large brochure, it's also a very big brochure, as in it's very wordy, there's lots of pages. We won't obviously look at every page. Well, we will look at every page, but we're not going to read everything within it because it would make it too long. Starting off on this side, it's just a bit of a road with a distant XM. Shows the Citroen XM Car of the Year 1990, which it did win. And actually won it very, very easily that year as well. But it was quite a dramatic Bertone design. More images of this grey XM going down the road. Like I say, it's very wordy, so we're not going to go into all these words, but we will look through the brochure. And then we get to this page which says introduction, various different images of the XM. So what we'll do, we'll zoom in on some of these nice images and possibly just read a little bit of this introduction. So there we have the main front image, little off-centre Citroen badge, and this one is the V6 by looks of it. Overall, a very angular design, isn't it? It was always meant to be quite an aggressive looking car, and I guess that's why they kind of like feature darker colours, the blacks, the greys, etc. seem to be the favoured colours for the XM. Also a very large sort of glass area, isn't it, on the XM? A lot of glass area on there, and I think that was obviously a design and sort of like a kink at the back there. We get a couple more images. We get a bit of a front view of it as well, that sloping nose, and the rear as well. Obviously this is a 90s brochure, 1990s brochure, so this is like the first generation. There was sort of a very sort of minor facelift. I think that was 1994 when it had a little bit of a facelift, but obviously this was the original one. There is a little bit of the text entitled Introduction, so let's have a quick read of some of this. Okay, so that's a little bit straighter, isn't it? So it starts by saying no other manufacturer in the world has punctuated the course of automatic development with so many yardstick innovations and designs as Citroen. The Citroen XM builds on and continues this tradition by combining new standards of handling, road holding and comfort with distinctive styling and the most advanced manufacturing techniques in the industry. And then it talks about this Car of the Year award. In recognition of these achievements, the Citroen XM has been voted European Car of the Year 1990, the highest accolade the motoring world can bestow upon a car. So, and then obviously it continues in a similar sort of vein, telling us what a remarkable this vehicle this is, and of course the hydroactive suspension, a very much a Citroen thing. As we turn the page, we get to this new page entitled Style and Efficiency. You get a nice sort of light going down there, really showing off the car. It looks a different colour, but again, it's that same grey colour. We're not going to read all this, it's kind of like talking about the design, etc. But it just tells us in there that the CD, or the drag coefficient, is 0.28, which is a very slippery shape, which you could quite imagine with that looking design. I've always loved big Citroens. They are amongst my favourite cars, although I must confess I preferred the CX before it, and indeed the C6 after it, but still a nice big Citroen. It was never really the sales success that really Citroen had hoped, though, sadly. Next page is introducing the hydroactive suspension. I'm sure most people who are familiar with Citroens are very familiar with that hydroactive system. Lovely little image from the front there, a sort of moody night shot, and like I say, going together with that sort of intentional aggressive styling. I guess that's what they were trying to go for here. And also down the bottom, it's showing us a few switches. We will have a very brief look at this, and then this main little picture. Telling us here the Citroen XM incorporates yet another Citroen breakthrough, hydroactive suspension, a system which combines the power of hydraulics with the intelligence of electronics. Instead of simply reacting to different road and driving conditions, as even the best conventional systems must do, hydroactive suspension anticipates them. And it continues in the same vein, talking about the different suspension, the soft ride or the firm ride. And at the bottom here, it's telling us a switch enables the driver to lock the suspension system in its firm sports mode. A sort of continuation from the last page. Now we're on to continuation also of this moody shot. This one's entitled Precision and Security, talking about things like ABS, etc, etc. But on the next page we finally have a look at sort of the engines that were available at this time, and the availability of this automatic transmission. So let's have a look at some of this. Okay, so to straighten that up a little bit. So Citroen has introduced a new range of engines for the XM, engineered to be amongst the most efficient of their type. The 2-litre engines, developed specifically for the XM, deliver the power, fuel efficiency, reliability and refinement that you would expect in a car of this class, while a new 3-litre V6 engine offers the ultimate in executive car motoring pleasure. Naturally, all these engines run on the unleaded petrol for cleaner exhaust emissions. Moreover, the V6 is fitted with a 3-way catalytic converter and already meets the strict EEC emission control regulations planned for 1992. So it says, we've got a totally new and exceptionally refined 12-valve turbo diesel, completes the XM engine range and further enhances Citroen's reputation as a leader in diesel technology. So it gives a little bit of information. First of all, talk about this 3-litre V6, 170 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds. So a pretty fast car really, with a top speed of 138. So you know, a pretty quick car for such a large vehicle. But we've got more regular engines like the 2-litre 4-cylinder. Even that's got 0 to 60 9.6 seconds, top speed 127 miles per hour. And of course the popular 2.1 litre turbo diesel. At this time, really, Citroens and French cars, the diesels were usually the cars to have. 0 to 60 in a reasonable 10.3, top speed 119 miles per hour, but with that excellent fuel economy of 57.6 at a constant 56 miles per hour, which is very impressive for such a large executive vehicle. It does give us an idea of the gearboxes as well, so a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic. It shows that automatic actually, and it says the advanced 4-speed automatic gearbox is available as an option on the 2-litre injection models and is fitted as standard on the V6. Particularly like these seats, you know, straight away they look like you'd really want to sit in. They're really comfortable seats, usually these big French cars. And then we get a little bit of an image of this top of the range V6 engine. Next page is a big dual page spread we've just about managed to get on screen, and if we just go back to this, what would normally regular size brochure would be, if we happen to open that up, you can see how big this particular Citroen brochure is, but certainly a nice image of this grey XM, these unusual wheels, and you know, it was quite a striking design in its time. Like I say, it's not one of my favourite Citroen designs, but certainly a very bold styling. And then we get the inside shot of all the different controls. You can see these unusual placing of controls down here. Obviously down here you've got the sort of the ride height adjustment. A pretty comprehensive car in this very sort of black dashboard, and these very nice sort of velour seats which look very comfortable, and your traditional sort of Citroen steering wheel with the single spoke, kind of like the end of this sort of design, but very Citroen-esque. It kind of like does remind me, I had a BX around this time, 1991, and this dashboard, although it isn't the same, it does kind of like remind me of that BX with this sort of black and this sort of like red Citroen logo on the steering wheel. On the next page we get another big image of this dashboard from a slightly different angle. You can see the manual gearbox there, but a little bit futuristic in a typical sort of big Citroen style. And then over here we've got some little features which we'll have a look at now. So here is the audio, and it's kind of like hidden away on this little flap. It says all XMs are fitted with a 6-speaker sound system. S and SE models feature remote control and automatic strongest search, or strongest signal search I should say. And then it's showing on here, if I can just manage to get this in shot. Extra comfort and safety with the variable height seatbelt adjustment, and this like fancy XM which has got the central locking remote control with it. So here we go, a nice double page spread of this, what would be the top of the range Citroen XM with this full leather trim. Also shows this sort of unusual steering wheel, how it goes back, and you've got the controls on here, which is unusual. And like I was saying before, this is where the stereo would be and hidden behind there. But certainly looks very much like an executive car in this trim, although I must confess, not a huge leather fan. I would have preferred that nice velour comfortable seats. A little bit more welcoming, I think. So this is a continuation of that previous page, talking about the seats again. You can sort of see the armrests on them back seats, and these little headrests are actually adjustable. It kind of like tells you a little bit about that over there, but we'll have a look at some of these images. This first one is saying C and B scene. It's kind of like showing that the models, the S and the SE models, have got like lights on the doors. We've also shown us a nice big electric sunroof, if I can kind of like tune that in a little bit better. So this electrically operated tilt and slide glass sunroof is on all the XM models, no matter which trim level you choose. You've got these nice little ventilations, adjustable face level air vents on the S and SE models, provide added comfort for the rear passengers, so they're quite unusual little vents at the back there. And at the top, like I said before, these adjustable head restraints available on the S and SE. Then on this next page, entitled Versatility in Space, it's kind of like giving this little bit of a diagram of, you know, basically the old split fold rear seats, showing how much space is in the XM. But more interestingly is this sort of hatch area, and I kind of like really didn't really know too much about this until I looked at the brochure. But you can see the hatch is up there, but you've also got a second glass area, which is quite interesting. You know, you as a rear passenger, you could open this up and there won't be any sort of breeze or anything going into your rear passengers with this glass down like this. A nice little feature that I've not really thought of too much before. And of course, with the hatch down, I'm sure it made the area a little bit quieter. It tells us a little bit about it down here, but doesn't say too much in the way of telling us about this little screen. It says the protective glass screen can be secured out of the way when extra carrying space is required. So quite a clever little Citroen-esque feature. We turn the page, we get another image of this same Citroen XM V6, you know, your top of the range model. You kind of see how the badging there is on there, and you know, if we move across, it's sort of like this little bit of a unusual little bit of a crease in the bodywork there, for nothing more than really design purposes, and that little V6 badge which you can just make out on the front. But this is kind of like where the brochure really changes from having these sort of images to having these sort of more drawn pages, which saw quite an unusual brochure. It also changes from being a glossy page to being like a matte finish page. So we'll have a look at the second half of the brochure now. This is where it really changes for me from being quite a ordinary brochure in many ways, apart from it being a large brochure, to being a little bit special, this brochure. You know, you got this double page spread talking about the engines and these beautiful drawings of the engines. First of all, talking about the 3-litre V6, and then starting to talk about the turbo diesel 12 valve. So a really beautiful little bit of an image. Unfortunately, we don't have time to look through all this, but I kind of wanted to show you how nice that page was. Now the drawing theme continues, now talking about the transmission, steering and brakes. Very well drawn, and I do particularly like this. Like I said, not enough time to look through all of it, but really nice how the brochure changes in that way. Same kind of idea, talking about the hydroactive suspension. You can see all the little spheres on there, and kind of like gives you an idea how the system works. Again, a nice little addition. Then talking about the bodywork, it's slightly some of the panels were actually galvanised, and it does show it here, a steel galvanised on both sides. This purple, what it's showing here, and then electro deposited primer, then your undercoat, then your first coat, then your second coat, and then your clear. So they were pretty good as a rust proofing on these particular Citroens, so they did hold up quite well in that way. It was more sort of electrical issues that it suffered from more than anything. A drawn out interior shot, all labelled quite nicely. Then the comfort and safety, as it calls it, talking about the ventilation system, and this lovely cutaway shot, obviously showing that top of the range with the leather seats in it. And then the technical specifications, so we'll certainly zoom in on that. Okay, so it tells you first about the engine choices. You got a 2-litre carb, a 2.1 turbo diesel, a 2-litre injection, a 2-litre injection catalyst, and that top of the range 3 litre V6. I'll go through these specifications. I'm not going to talk about it all, but certainly you can pause the screen at any time if you want to look at anything in any great detail. And you can certainly see that sort of impressive performance figures of 138 for that manual gearbox, 3 litre V6, 0 to 67.8. A pretty quick car for such a large vehicle. Wheels and tyre options, of course using Michelin. You know, Michelin and Citroen always have that sort of little bit of a tie with each other. Citroen XM technical information about the brake, steering. We'll slowly go down that as well. And that impressive drag coefficient showing us the 2 litre carb and the 2 litre injection have got the lowest at 0.28. 3 litre V6 actually goes to 0.30. Dimensions and capacities, don't know how interested everyone is about that, but there it is if you are interested. We've got the full equipment specifications for each different model, so black being standard equipment, or you know, your clear circle meaning optional extra cost. So we'll have a look through that as well. Starting with the special equipment, the different models here being the 2 litre carb being the most basic one, and then your 2 litre injection stroke 2.1 turbo diesel, the different variations of that, and then finally your 3 litre V6, 2 models, your SI or your top of the range SEI. Get this little bit of a table showing, you know, if you pick what colour depending on which trim you actually get before we actually get to the colours proper. And it is a nice colour chart, so we'll have a proper look at that. So there we go. So what really nice, and they're really glossy, so I've tried to try and angle it so you can see it because it's such a glossy paper, and a really nice sort of paint samples showing you that no, you didn't just have to have that in grey, you had a nice colour choice. I mean, Olympic blue, I don't think I've ever seen an XM in Olympic blue, but what a nice colour choice that would have been. If you want to go a little bit more eccentric, this one called Onyx, like a light green colour. Never seen an XM in that, but that would have been a lovely colour. But anyway, I just wanted to show you, A, because colour choices on cars are terrible these days, and even in the 90s they were way better, and B, you know, you didn't have to have your XM in grey. There were some much nicer colours out there. It also gives you a little bit of a sample idea of these different, two different velour interiors and that black leather. And then, yeah, it ends at the back, super glossy again, rear view of the XM, and the little Citroen badge. Citroen XM, Car of the Year 1990. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching Quartzlight today and the Citroen XM. Any memories of the XM, please do jot that in the comments. Good or bad, always like to hear from you. Anyway, for now, we'll say thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. We'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.